This is a video introducing Jinky 34 or Gate 34 in human design. It's one of the powerful gates because it also has the name in I Ching as power or the empowerment. It's one of those gates that in our sacral energy center right here in our sacral. And it's one of the unusual type of gates because it has connection to three other gates, to the gate 57 right here in our spleen, to the gate 10 that is in our G center, identity center, or to the gate N, to the gate 20 that is here in our throat. So this is very powerful manifesting generator type of channel that has a lot of energy and has a capacity to bring that energy to these three other centers. And regardless if you have it either defined in your body graph or undefined or hanging, we all, of course, experience this energy specifically during the transit of that gate or when we have its programming or its programming partner gate affecting it in some way as well. And definitely just because this transit has passed literally a few days ago, from the time that I'm recording this, it's the experience of this gate and this gene key is very fresh in my life, is very fresh in my experience. And I definitely was inspired and called out to create this reflection on the gate 34 of power. Interestingly, that in gene keys, this is also translated or considered by Richard Rudd as expression of force, forceful type of energy into understanding how to work that forceful energy into the energy of strength and majesty, where this force becomes less pushy, but becomes more effortless expression of our strength. Which is definitely a beautiful way to look at this. But a thing that came to my view, a description that showed up in my reality was this reality of a boiling pot. And our sacral definitely could have this representation of a boiling pot, right? So it's a kettle. Raoul Hu himself, I think, used the description of lightning in a jar. So it's a very, very concentrated, very strong aliveness energy or life force energy, and a lot of translation of ki or life force energy of prana we translate as life force. And so the energy is highly concentrated, and it wants to find its expression. It wants to find its way to be alive, right? To as lightning, right, kind of strikes and create electric charge and grounds into the earth, similar to a spark, right? Spark is a small but powerful potential of a fire. So with this energy, there is the same thing. It's a very, very powerful potential to create something in both ways, and something that is definitely could be beneficial to our aliveness and to our life force in general, or not so great for us, right? So it's very, very important to know how and where we are directing our energy, right, at this point, or with this gene key or with this gate. If we have that represented in our body graph, I highly suggest and recommend look at the planet that is ruling, let's say, or that is not ruling wouldn't be really appropriate way to say this, the planet that is responsible for this gene key or this gate in your own body graph chart. In my own personal experience and in my own chart, this gate 34 is defined by planet of Saturn. And definitely every time when I have specific Saturnian experiences of maturation, I definitely learn a lot how to utilize my power. Specifically, interestingly enough, that for me, this gate 34 is connected to the gate 10 of self-empowerment in my G center. So for me, every time when I have a Saturnian experience of learning life or karmically, that has almost some kind of like karming touch to it, I'm definitely learning how to empower myself first, and then use that self-empowerment in order to generate a lesson or a learning that I can then translate into a collective field. So with this being said, we also then can have the 34 gate lead and connect to the throat into the gate 20, which creates a very, very powerful manifesting generated channel of charisma. And this people also subject to very fast responding throat. So if you are generator or manifesting generator, for you actually those sacral responses that you might be aware of, you need to be very aware of them, because even though they could be potentially very, very true for you, they might fire really rapidly. So for you, you need a little bit more time to consider the validity of that sacral response if you have the channel of charisma. And then if that gate 34 connected to the gate 57, that is channel of power. I think also Rahu called it a channel of human, and sort of where the archetype of human lives. It's like an archetype of true power, an archetype of a true human, which I think is incredibly, incredibly beautiful. With this specific gate 34, also it's interesting to remember that this is the beginning of the Sagittarius season, and the gate 34 opens up the Sagittarius part of the horoscope, taking us from the time of Scorpio. If you think, and if you know a little bit more about horoscope or zodiac, not horoscope, but definitely zodiac, that Scorpio is a representation of water, but also this fixed water. Literally, if you think what is fixed water, it's a frozen water. So scorpionic frozen water, it's in the capacity to not just generate and sustain emotion, but also be frozen in some emotional states. And that archetype sometimes carries with it that intensity of that highly, highly condensed emotion. Right? I'm speaking right now generally. I'm not targeting specifically Scorpios here. So this archetype of scorpionic condensed emotion of water is now being gently sort of melted by the this sparks of Sagittarius fire. And that Sagittarian fire is this initial type of force, initial type of energy that gently lets us to warm up our emotion, to warm up our heart in order for us to continue through our evolution. So it's beautiful to watch this evolution of the energy. And if you observe the patterns of your weeks, the patterns of time, you will see how this energy of the power gate of 34 moves into gate 9. And gate 9 is taming the power of the small. So that is, I find this combination or this beautiful transition is so harmonious here, because this energy of the gate 34 can be absolutely overwhelming. It could be dynamic, overwhelming. Let's just say, considering the past 6 days that I've experienced, they've been definitely some type of roller coaster, from incredibly positive events to potentially overwhelming events or news that we might receive in our environment, and emotions as well, right? It's also could be very emotional time for many of us. And then when we reach into the gate 9, this is where we focus, where we narrow down and sort of take small uh, uh, bites of the overwhelming experience of energy of 34 and focus down, narrow down into that logical circuitry that is gate 9 here, into and seeing how we can actually utilize those small parts of our day, small parts of our small parts as a meaning as not what would be the word, the parts that contribute to the bigger picture, right? So when we, one of my favorite, just absolute favorite analogies that I use often is mosaic, right? It's like one piece of mosaic is not meaningful or essential on its own, but then in the tapestry, it's very, very important and potential, because without that little piece of mosaic, you wouldn't have the whole beauty of the masterpiece. So the same thing with the power, the taming power of the small. It's paying attention to that small piece of your daily routine, of that small piece of your aliveness that you might sometimes overlook or not pay attention to, but then understanding that that piece can actually lead to the power, to the empowerment piece. Please do share with me in your comment line the your experience of this gate 34, or also your expression of the gate 34, which planet this gate is expressed through in your own profile, and how you relate to the energy of the gate 34.